To really understand the transformative nature of the Real Estate Regulation and Development Act, or RERA 2016, we must first deconstruct the fundamental market failure it addresses, which is information asymmetry. Listen, before this legislation, the real estate sector was heavily skewed in favor of developers, leaving the poor home buyer vulnerable to delays, fraud, and opaque practices. The RERA Act serves as a structural intervention to restore balance, acting not just as a regulator but as a market standardizer. Now focus on the visual, specifically the pre-RERA era versus post-RERA era comparison. You will notice that the diversion of funds was a major issue. Previously, developers would collect money for Project A but divert it to buy land for Project B, leaving Project A stalled due to a lack of liquidity. बिल्कुल गलत था ये. To counter this, RERA introduced the escrow mechanism. Simple है. This is a strict financial discipline where the developer must deposit 70% of the funds collected from buyers into a separate scheduled bank account. As shown in the post-RERA era graphic, this money is locked and can only be withdrawn for construction and land costs of that specific project. This ensures that the capital provided by the buyer is utilized strictly for the asset they are purchasing. Why is this critical? Socho zara. It prevents the cyclic debt trap and ensures project completion. Furthermore, withdrawal isn't arbitrary. It requires certification from an engineer, architect, and chartered accountant, adding layers of professional accountability. Another significant reform is the standardization of terminology. देखो, before RERA, terms like super built-up area were used to inflate costs, charging buyers for common spaces like lobbies or stairs that they couldn't exclusively use. RERA mandates that sales must be based on carpet area, essentially the net usable floor area where you can actually lay a carpet. Referencing the carpet area versus super built-up area diagram, notice how the blue zone represents the honest usable space, excluding external walls and service shafts. Samajh aaya? This definition forces transparency in pricing. Finally, the Act establishes a robust dispute resolution hierarchy. Instead of clogging civil courts, we now have a specialized regulatory authority, RERA, and an appellate tribunal, REAT, mandated to fast-track disputes within 60 days, ensuring that justice for structural defects or delays is accessible and time-bound. Correct?
Moving to the broader ecosystem of urbanization, we address the challenge of shelter through the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana Urban, or PMAYU. The objective here is not merely construction, but housing for all by ensuring pakka houses with basic amenities. However, listen carefully, a one-size-fits-all approach fails in a diverse country like India. Therefore, PMAYU is structured around 4 distinct verticals, designed to target specific demographics and economic realities. Look at the 4 pillars of PMAYU visual. The first pillar, ISSR, in situ slum redevelopment, leverages the most valuable asset slums sit upon, which is land. By using land as a resource and incentivizing private developers with extra FSI, slums are rehabilitated vertically on the same spot, integrating them into the formal urban fabric without displacement. The second pillar, CLSS, Credit-Linked Subsidy Scheme, targets the aspiring middle class, EWS, LIG, and MIG categories. Here, the state doesn't build. Instead, it subsidizes the interest rate on home loans, making ownership affordable. This shifts the focus from direct provision to financial enablement. However, a critical realization emerged post-COVID-19. Not everyone wants to own a house immediately. Migrant workers need affordable, temporary living spaces near their workplaces, right? This led to the creation of affordable rental housing complexes, ARHCs, a sub-scheme under PMAYU. As the ARHC ecosystem diagram illustrates, this works on 2 models: retrofitting existing vacant government housing into rentals, or incentivizing private and public entities to construct new rental units on their vacant land. This creates a dignified living ecosystem for the urban workforce who fuel the city's economy. Furthermore, the speed and quality of construction are addressed through the Technology Submission, GHTC. Traditional brick and mortar is slow and resource intensive. The Global Housing Technology Challenge identified innovative construction technologies globally to implement them in India. Refer to the Lighthouse Project LHP map. You will see distinct technologies being piloted in different geoclimatic zones, like monolithic concrete in Rajkot for speed, or prefabricated sandwich panels in Indore for insulation. These projects serve as live laboratories, proving that mass housing can be built faster, cheaper, and more sustainably, transitioning Indian construction from manual processes to industrial manufacturing. Clear, hey?
The concept of a smart city is often deeply misunderstood as merely a digital city. Bilkul nahi. In the context of the Smart Cities mission, SMART implies efficiency, sustainability, and data-driven governance. The mission operates on two strategic layers: area-based development, ABD, and pan-city solutions. Let's deconstruct the area-based development strategy diagram. ABD focuses on transforming specific pockets of the city to create replicable models. It employs three methods: retrofitting, which involves planning and improving existing areas over 500 acres to make them more efficient; redevelopment, which requires demolishing existing built environments over 50 acres to replace them with new layouts and higher density; and greenfield, which is innovation in previously vacant areas over 250 acres using land pooling. However, the real core of this mission lies in its implementation framework. Traditionally, municipalities suffer from bureaucratic hurdles and funding delays. You see, to bypass this friction, the mission introduced the Special Purpose Vehicle, SPV. As shown in the SPV model flowchart, the SPV is a limited company incorporated under the Companies Act with 50-50 equity holding between the state government and the urban local body ULB. Why create a corporate entity for city governance? The answer is operational autonomy. The SPV, led by a CEO, can plan, appraise, release funds, and execute projects without the day-to-day political and administrative interference that plagues standard municipalities. It allows for professional management of urban projects. Make sense? At the technological apex of the smart city is the Integrated Command and Control Center, ICCC, described visually as the urban brain. A city generates massive amounts of data daily: traffic flow, waste collection, water levels, and crime incidents. Previously, this data existed in silos. The police didn't talk to the traffic department, who didn't talk to the municipal corporation. The ICCC converges these data streams from IoT sensors, CCTV, smart meters, traffic sensors into a single dashboard. This allows for real-time monitoring and adaptive response. For instance, if a fire is detected, traffic signals can automatically adjust to give way to emergency vehicles, or water supply can be diverted. This promotes data-driven governance, moving city management from reactive firefighting to proactive planning. Very good.
Now focus. AMRUT 2.0 represents a significant evolutionary leap from its predecessor. While AMRUT 1.0 was primarily focused on infrastructure creation, basically laying pipes and building basic capacity, AMRUT 2.0 shifts the focus to service delivery and water security. The goal is not just to have a pipe, but to have water flowing through it. Samajh rहे हो? As the OMRUT 1.0 versus OMRUT 2.0 scale graph indicates, the scope has expanded massively to cover all 4,378 statutory towns for universal water supply, aiming for 100% functional household tap connections, FHTC. This is a move towards saturation, ensuring that the mere existence of infrastructure translates into tangible access for every household. The central philosophy of OMRUT 2.0 is anchored in the circular economy of water. Listen, water is a finite resource, and the traditional linear model of source to consumption to waste is unsustainable. We must close the loop. Look at the urban water circular economy diagram. It illustrates a system where used water is not discarded as sewage, but is treated and recycled for industrial use or gardening. The target is to meet 20% of city water demand and 40% of industrial demand through recycled water. This reduces the stress on freshwater sources like rivers and groundwater. To operationalize this, every city must develop a City Water Balance Plan, CWBP. This is a holistic audit of water sources, consumption patterns, and deficits. A critical inefficiency in our current system is non-revenue water, NRW, water that is produced but lost before it reaches the customer due to leakage or theft. OMRUT 2.0 mandates reducing NRW to below 20% via smart metering. Furthermore, the mission emphasizes freshwater conservation through the rejuvenation of water bodies. As seen in the Model City Water Management illustration, rainwater harvesting pits and rejuvenated lakes are integrated into the urban landscape to recharge aquifers. This ensures that the city becomes a sponge, capturing water rather than letting it run off. The Payjal Survekshan creates a competitive federalism framework ranking cities on water quality and quantity, thereby incentivizing performance and community engagement through Jan Andalan. Got it?
Acha! Swachh Bharat Mission Urban 2.0 marks a paradigm shift from the initial focus on toilet construction to a comprehensive waste-to-wealth ecosystem. The primary objective is to make cities garbage-free. But this requires a fundamental change in how we perceive waste. The core process starts at the household level, which sows segregation. As the goal 100% segregation visual depicts, waste must be separated into three streams: wet green bin, dry blue bin, and domestic hazardous red bin. This is crucial because mixed waste is useless waste. Wet waste can be composted or used for biomethanation, while dry waste goes to material recovery facilities, MRF, for recycling. The mission mandates 100% processing of municipal solid waste, moving away from the primitive practice of dumping. A massive challenge addressing the sins of the past is legacy waste remediation. Most Indian cities are burdened with massive dump sites, mountains of old garbage that pose severe environmental hazards. The solution provided is biomining, a process detailed in the legacy waste remediation diagram. This involves excavating the old waste, stabilizing it, and then screening it through trommels. The waste is separated into its components: refuse-derived fuel (RDF) for industries, biosoil for agriculture, and inert materials for construction. The ultimate goal is Lakshya Zero Dump Site, recovering valuable urban land that was previously locked under trash, effectively reclaiming land for city greenery or infrastructure. Simultaneously, the mission advances liquid waste management through a hierarchy of protocols. It's not enough to just stop open defecation, we must manage what goes into the toilets. The sanitation protocol staircase illustrates this progression. ODF Plus ensures not just usage but the maintenance and cleanliness of community toilets. ODF Double Plus goes a step further, focusing on the safe containment and processing of fecal sludge and septage, FSSM, ensuring no untreated sludge enters open drains. The highest standard, Water Plus, mandates the treatment of water waste and its reuse.
This connects back to the circular economy, ensuring that sanitation is not just about hygiene but about resource recovery and environmental sustainability.
Urban mobility is the lifeline of a city's economic productivity. Listen closely. The Metro Rail Policy 2017 introduced a critical shift in thinking, moving from an infrastructure-heavy approach to a comprehensive mobility solution. It recognized that heavy metro systems, which require massive capital expenditure or CapEx, are not the only solution for every city. The policy mandates a system selection based on peak hour traffic demand. Refer to the metro systems comparison visual. For smaller Tier 2 cities, a Metro Light, which is at grade and fenced, or Metro Neo, a rubber-tired electric coach, offers a medium-capacity solution at a fraction of the cost of a heavy metro. This standardization prevents the financial bleeding of smaller cities attempting to build oversized infrastructure. Furthermore, the policy makes the PPP component essential for central assistance, forcing financial discipline and private sector efficiency. It also pushes for transit-oriented development, TOD, which means densifying the city along transit corridors, high-rise mixed land use. This brings people closer to public transport, increasing ridership and reducing dependence on private vehicles. On a regional scale, the Regional Rapid Transit System (RRTS) addresses the connectivity between the city core and its suburbs. As shown in the Delhi NCR RRTS network map, these trains run at 160 km per hour, much faster than standard metros, which run at 80 km per hour, with stations spaced further apart. This enables polycentric development, allowing people to live in Meerut and work in Delhi, thereby decongesting the National Capital Territory. The future of mobility is also green and integrated. The PM e-Bus Seva targets cities with no organized bus service, augmenting public transport with electric buses to reduce the carbon footprint. Crucially, the National Common Mobility Card (NMCC), marketed as One Nation One Card, solves the issue of fragmented payment systems. As the NMCC interoperability cycle shows, a single RuPay card can be used for metro gates, city buses, tolls, and even retail. This open-loop system creates a seamless user experience, making public transport as convenient as using a private car, which is the ultimate goal of sustainable urban mobility. Samajh aaya? Now let's talk about money. The foundational crisis of Indian urbanization is financial. Urban local bodies, ULBs, are constitutionally mandated to manage cities, yet they are fiscally crippled. As the aggregate municipal revenue composition pie chart highlights, municipal revenue is a mere 1% of GDP compared to 6% in emerging economies like Brazil. Dekho, there is a dangerously high dependency risk on state and central grants, approx 49%. The 74th Amendment Act intended for tax devolution, but state finance commissions have largely failed to empower ULBs financially. To break this dependency, ULBs must expand their internal revenue sources primarily by optimizing property tax and implementing user charges for water and sewerage. However, tax revenue alone is insufficient for large infrastructure projects like bridges or water treatment plants. This is where municipal bonds come into play. Simple hai. A municipal bond is a debt instrument where the ULB borrows money from the market. But remember, the market only lends to credible entities. Therefore, the issuance of bonds forces a balance sheet reform. Look at the bond issuance life cycle flow. To get a credit rating, investment grade, a municipality must shift from the opaque cash-based accounting to transparent double-entry accrual-based accounting. This acts as a force-in function for fiscal discipline. Success stories like Pune and Indore prove that cities can raise capital independently if their financial house is in order. Another innovative financing mechanism is value capture financing, VCF. The logic is simple. Public infrastructure creates private value. सोचो जरा, if the government builds a metro line, the property prices nearby skyrocket. Why should the landowner keep 100% of this unearned windfall? The value capture financing cycle illustrates that the government should capture a part of this increased land value through tools like betterment levy or impact fees. This revenue is then recycled to fund new infrastructure, creating a virtuous cycle of circular funding. This ensures that urbanization funds itself rather than relying perpetually on state handouts. Makes sense, right?
Finally, let's discuss the ground beneath our feet. Land is the most finite and contentious resource in urban planning. The traditional model of land acquisition under the LARR Act 2013 is often coercive, expensive, and legally entangled. To address this, the Land Pooling Policy, LPP, offers a collaborative alternative. Instead of the state taking land, landowners pool their land voluntarily. Refer to the before and after map transformation. In the before stage, land is fragmented and irregular. The pooling agency then develops infrastructure, roads, parks, sewage, on a portion of this land. In the after stage, the landowner receives a reconstituted plot, about 48 to 60% of the original size. Although the area is smaller, listen, the value has multiplied because it is now a developed commercializable plot rather than raw agricultural land. This represents a fair share model where both the city and the owner benefit. Another sophisticated tool for spatial management is transferable development rights, TDR. Often, development is restricted in certain areas, for example near a heritage building or a greenbelt, called a sending zone. To compensate the landowner without paying cash, which ULBs lack, the government issues a TDR certificate. As shown in the TDR mechanism diagram, this certificate separates the development right from the land ownership. The owner can sell this certificate to a developer in a receiving zone, which are high-growth areas. The developer purchases it to build extra floors above the standard limit. This mechanism preserves heritage and environment while ensuring the landowner is compensated by market forces, not the taxpayer. Clear, hey? Finally, we use Floor Space Index, FSI, or FAR, to control urban density. FSI is the ratio of the total built-up area to the total plot area. Look at the visual formula for FSI. If FSI is 1 on a 1,000 square foot plot, you can build 1,000 square feet of floor space, one floor. If FSI is 2, high FSI, you can build 2,000 square feet, which means vertical growth. Governments use premium FSI, selling extra FSI as a revenue tool, and dynamic FSI, higher FSI, near metro corridors to encourage transit-oriented development. This prevents urban sprawl by encouraging vertical growth, where infrastructure capacity, like mass transit, already exists. So much gana.